Hello students, myself Dr. Luqman. So here comes our next video about NEET revision series. This series is about re-NEET examination. So I'm going to give you all the revision points from the NCERT that are high yield topics and highest probability of getting questions from these videos only. I believe that these are the only videos you all need for your re-NEET examination. That is last minute revision type of revision. Okay, for NEET examination. So in this video, we are going to cover ecology, ecosystem, and biodiversity and conservation, and organisms and population. This chapter, three chapters we are going to cover in this video. Let's start. NEET UG examiner's blueprint, you always we cover, from which this chapter, what has been asked in the previous examination, what is the examiner thinking about which topics from these lessons. We are going to cover these type of examiner's blueprint in every chapter. Okay, so let's see by topic areas. From population attributes, population growth and growth curves, highest probability of weightage, then comes population interactions, high probability of weightage, and also competitive exclusion principles, Gauss's principle, interference versus exploitation, and competitive release. All these are high yield weightage topics. We are going to cover these topics in our next coming time in the other slide, but these are the high probable questions: population growth and population interactions and competitive exclusion and in principle. And what type of questions being asked here, like what is he asking? He is asking about growth curves, he is asking about intrinsic rate of natural increase, he is asking about K, that is carrying capacity, he is asking about R selected and K selected organisms, he is asking about interactions and the signs and how they behave, he is asking about predator prey cycle, he is asking about competitive release graphs, and all such examples from this chapter. Okay, just to give you a hint that what are we going to study and how are we going to study, this is the examiner's blueprint, and we are going to focus with these lens into the topics. Let's see about ecology. The definition of ecology, sometimes direct definition questions are asked. It looks like all the four statements are true, and maybe all the it appears to be that all the statements are true for the definition. So we are going to see proper definition as per NCERT. Ecology is the study of the interactions among organisms and between the organism and its physical or abiotic environment. It means the interaction, the behavior, the interface between all the organisms in one area, and also the organism with the physical abiotic factors like land, water, air, fire, etc. This is called as ecology. Okay, it has four levels. Okay, four levels of biological organization in ecology. One is organism, the individual level being. Two is populations, group of individuals of the same species in a given area. Three is communities, assemblages of different populations in a given area. And biomes, large regional units characterized by distinct climate and vegetation, is called as biomes. So these are the four levels of ecology. The level of ecology starts obviously from the organism, then all the group of individuals of same species population, then comes communities, then comes the regional unit characterized by distinct climate and vegetation. So for you to tell that that region is one biome, that region should have a distinct climate and vegetation, then only we can call that area as a biome. Okay, now type of questions in ecology NCERT example, how type questions like seek the mechanism behind a process. Example, how does a bird sing? Operation of the voice box. Why type of questions are being asked, like why does a bird sing? To communicate with the mate. So whatever we study in these slides, we have to ask how and why. That is how you have to approach ecology, and that type of questions are being asked from ecology. Previous questions, the niche or the niche of a species is meant for. So what is the real need or necessity of the niche? Habitat and specific functions of a species. So the niche is meant to identify the habitat and also the specific functions. That is the important meaning or the necessity behind the niche. Okay, habitat plus function or the role, the place and what it does is called as niche. Moving on, population. Let's see what is population, because we have seen about organism. Now we are going to study about population. Population definition and its attributes. A group of individuals of a given species. For example, population of all the human beings, because all human beings are one species. So a group of individuals of a given species sharing or competing for similar resources in a defined geographical area. That geographical area should be defined, like Indian population, Australian population, American population. The geography of these three areas is defined, and in that one we are going to study the individuals of a given species potentially interbreeding. We will study about species also, the definition of the species also, that the organisms can interbreed. It means they can participate in intercourse and they can produce the offspring. Sexual reproduction happens between those individuals is called as interbreeding. So a group of individuals of a same given species in a defined geographical area and also has a potential interbreeding capacity. Even asexually reproducing groups are considered populations for the ecological studies. You have to remember this point here. Moving on, population attributes, like for example, characteristics that individuals do not have but population has, that is birth rate, death rate, sex ratio, age distribution, etc. We are going to study the other parts also in detail in the next slides. What is birth rate? The word birth rate is very simple to understand. It is also called as natality. Okay, another word. Number of births per capita per unit time. If a pond had 20 lotus plants last year and 8 new plants are added this year, birth rate is 8 by 20, that is zero point 0.4 offspring per lotus per year. So how do you calculate the birth year? Total lotus plant and new plants or new organisms. So new by total, that gives the 0.4. That is the example being taken here. That is how you calculate the birth rate. In the same way, death rate. The another word for death rate is mortality. Number of deaths per capita per unit time. If 4 fruit flies die in a population of 40 in 1 week, death rate is equals to 4 by 40, that is zero point 0.1 individuals per fruit fly per week. That is how you calculate the death rate, also called as mortality. Sex ratio. Proportion of males and females in the population is called as sex ratio. Example, 60% females and 40% males. We know the symbols what we use for females and males here. Age distribution or age pyramid. It means the percentage of individuals in different age groups: pre-productive, reproductive, and post-productive. Pre-productive, like before marriage and before becoming adult, before like having secondary sexual characters, and then reproductive, then after marriage and how after you are in a fertile age group, and post-productive after the menopause. So these are the age group, and that's how we are going to distribute and categorize population into these age distribution pyramids. Age pyramid can be expanding, then it is triangular, or stable, then it is bell shaped, or declining if it is urn shaped. So you should know the shape of the age pyramid. What does it tell about the age actually, and what is happening inside it? We have to tell all these 3 points. Let's look it once again. Okay, age pyramids are of 3 types: expanding type, that is triangular; stable type, bell shaped; and declining, that is urn shaped. Let's see what do you mean by expanding type of age pyramid. The word itself tells that large proportion of pre-reproductive individuals are converted into the growing population. So pre-reproductive is at the base of the triangle, then comes the reproductive, then comes the post-reproductive. The even it can give you the location where we are pointing, or the color grading of that pyramid also. Stable means nearly equal numbers in pre-reproductive and reproductive groups, and stationary population also. Declining or urn-shaped. Similarly, in the declining, that is urn-shaped, fewer pre-reproductive individuals, diminishing population. So the word itself describes the meaning also. You have to understand it is focusing on the pre-reproductive state. Okay, more pre-reproductive expanding, stable pre-reproductive equal to other groups also stable, and fewer pre-reproductive that is declining or unshaped. Key point is population attribute help ecologists understand the growth, structure and dynamics of the population. Previous year questions. Let's see the previous year question parts here. Okay, the age pyramid with broad base indicates that higher percentage of young individuals expanding population. So this is the previous year question. In the same way, what type of human population is represented by the following age pyramid? Declining. Okay, on shape. If the shape is on, then it is declining. In a growing population of a country, pre-reproductive individuals are more than the reproductive individuals. That is called as growing, that is expanding. Expanding age pyramid, the percentage individuals of reproductive age is largest. Stable age pyramid in which pre-reproductive and reproductive age group are same. Okay. In the same way, PYQ in 2020 was which of the following is not an attribute of a population? Species interaction, it is an attribute of a community, not a population. Attributes are basically natality, mortality, sex ratio, age distribution, etc. So moving forward, factors affecting the population density. This formula is important. Most of the time, the previous year questions were directly about the formula or asking one variable of that formula or giving a number and answering the as a simplification maths numerical problem. Okay, population density at a time t plus 1 is equals to n t plus 1 is equal to n of t plus b plus I minus d plus e. We are going to break down that one. Let's see what does these letters stands for. Okay, b is for births, that is increased density. I for immigration, increased density. D for decreased density, that is deaths, and immigration, that is decreased density, stands for E. So B plus I minus D plus E, it means those things which are increasing are to be added and those things which are decreasing are to be added separately. Then we are going to subtract from one to the other. Then we are going to divide it, multiply with no, actually we are going to add it with n of t. We are going to see what is n of t now. Let's see. Natality, that is B, and immigration increases. Under normal conditions, births and deaths are most important. Immigration becomes important during colonization of new habitats. Okay, previous year question, when will the population density increase under special conditions? Okay, when does it increase? When the births plus immigrants is more than the deaths plus emigrants. This is called as increase in the population. Previous year question, again he has given natality, that is birth rate 250, mortality, that is death, is 240, immigration is 20, and emigration is 30. So B plus I minus D plus E, we got 0. So there was 0 increase in the stationary population. Key takeaway, the important statement based questions are asked from here, that is population growth depends on the balance between additions, that is, and losses, that is births plus immigration, and losses, that is deaths plus immigration, that is it has to have a balance, that one. If addition is more than the losses, then density increases. If additions are equal to the losses, then density remains same. If additions is less than the losses, then the density decreases. Let's see what do you mean by exponential or geometric growth and other models. Okay, this exponential, it means multiplied, unlimited. Okay, very much high exponential. Geometric growth occurs when resources are unlimited, especially the basic resources of water, land, quality air and other human needs. If the resources are unlimited, then there can be a possibility of exponential, that is geometric growth. So moving on, population grows at a constant rate R. So that constant rate of population is actually intrinsic factor. It means a natural factor. Naturally, the resources and that environment and the atmosphere and that species are succeeding in that area. Okay. So here's the equation. According to that equation, NT stands for population after time t, and N0 stands for initial population, and R stands for intrinsic rate of natural increase, and E is the base of natural logarithm, that is 2.71828. So the integral form is nt is equals to n0 e to the power of rt. Okay, example, like for example, Norway rat, r is 0.015. What is r? Intrinsic rate of natural increase. And for floor beetle, r is 0.12. And for human population in India, and in 1981, the r is 0.0 205. Okay, you have to remember this one. This graph is called as J-shaped curve. With the time, there is a high increase in population, that is called as exponential population. So exponential population has a J-shaped curve. Okay, Darwin's chessboard anecdote, what is he trying to tell with that example here? Okay, if a grain is placed on the first square of a chessboard and doubled on each subsequent square, the total number of grains on 64th square would be enormous, approximately equal to 1.84 into 10 to the power of 19. Okay, that is an anecdote he tried to explain about the exponential growth of the population. Let's see about the previous year questions from this topic. In the exponential growth, the equation nt is equals to n0 e to the power of rt. E represents, I already told you the questions will be asked from this formula only, the base of natural algorithms. Similarly, the previous question, the process of growth is maximum during log phase, exponential phase, and the maximum growth rate occurs in exponential phase, log phase. One more previous year question, the population of an insect species shows explosive increase during rainy season followed by disappearance. What does this show? It shows there is a J-type growth curve. Okay, let's see what are the key takeaways. Okay, in exponential growth, that is J-shaped growth curve, population increases at a constant rate under unlimited resources, leading to an ever increasing population size. Okay, so conditions are unlimited resources and no environmental resistance. Now comes the another type of a growth, population growth model, that is called as logistic or sigmoid growth. Okay, what does it mean? It is exactly opposite actually at most level when compared with the exponential growth model. In the logistic growth model, the resources are limited. That is very important. Once the resources are limited, obviously population is going to have some effect. Population grows initially slowly, lag phase, then accelerate, log phase, then decelerate. There is a decrease also. There is increase, there is fast increase, then there is a decrease also, and finally reaches an asymptote at the carrying capacity. What do you mean by asymptote? We are going to see that one also. Carrying capacity means K. It means maximum number of individuals a habitat can support sustainably. So carrying capacity means maximum number of individuals a habitat in that region. That region has its own capacity, that is called as carrying capacity. This growth equation is called as Verhel's Pearl logistic growth equation. What does it tell about? It tells about the S-shaped sigmoid curve where there is a lag phase, there is a log phase, there is a deceleration phase, and there is a carrying capacity of that region. Asymptote is reached when n is equals to k. N stands for population size at time t, and K stands for carrying capacity. That is maximum number of individuals a habitat can support. So that habitat supports, suppose we understand that, suppose we take that that habitat supports 1 lakh population and 1 lakh population has been reached at that time, then that is called as n is equals to k, that is called as asymptote. Okay, population fluctuates around k due to environmental resistance. Let's see the previous year question. Which equation represents the Verhel's Pearl logistic growth? He is going to give you the equation directly. You have to by heart that one. In the equation, K stands for carrying capacity. The logistic population growth is expressed by equation same. The question is about equation. Asymptote in a logistic growth curve is obtained when K is equal to N. When does growth rate equal 0 in logistic model? When n by k is equals to 1 or n is equals to k. Identify the type of growth curves A and B. We know that A is a J-shaped exponential growth model and the other S-shaped is a sigmoid or logistic growth. Key takeaways: in the S-shaped, the resources are limited. You have to remember that one. Population life history variation R selected versus K selected species. It means population evolved to maximum Darwinian fitnesses high R value. It means according to the Darwin, okay, according to the origin of species, that species population will evolve to its highest level, that is called as R value. And depending upon the habitat and that organism also, there are some species which we categorize as R selected species, and there are some species which we are categorized as K selected species. R selected species means many small offspring, little K, high R unstable habitats. K selected species means few large offspring, intensive care, low R, that is stable competitive environments. So what is the difference between R selected species and K selected species? You can see here. Direct statement based questions can come here. Okay. The reproductive strategy for the R selected species is semelparous. It means breed only once in lifetime. Whereas for the K selected species, it is heteroparous. It means breed many times in lifetime. In the same way, produce a large number of R's offspring in R selected species, and in K selected species produce a few offspring. Offspring are small sized in R selected species, and offsprings are large sized in K selected species. Little or no parental care in R, intensive parental care in the K. Early maturity in R and late maturity in K. Short lifespan in R and long lifespan in K. High R value in R and low R value in K. Low competitive ability in R and high competitive ability in K. Okay. So direct example could be asked, as the following could be asked, and also statement based could be asked, where it is high and where it is R. Okay. Large number of offspring but short value, high R value but low. These type of contrasting statement from the R itself can be given to confuse you. The example are Pacific salmon, bamboo, oysters and pelagic fishes for R selected species. Similarly, the examples for K selected species are most birds and mammals. Let's see the previous year question. Which of the following is correct for R selected species? We know that there is a large size of progeny. No, the progeny size is small actually. Okay, offsprings are small sized. Small number of progeny. No, large number of offsprings are large actually. Large number of progeny with a small size. Yes, that is the characteristics of R selected species, and the exact statements is suits for K selected species. Okay, so the answer is C. Stop the video and revise it multiple times. Now let's study one more important topic, that is population interaction. How one population, one species population is interacting with the another depending upon their need and requirements and the situation. Okay, and these questions not only comes as statement, it is the questions come along with the sign conventions also. For example, mutualism, in which both the species A and B are benefited. So we are going to give the symbol plus and plus beneficial for both the species in mutualism. Similarly, for competition, both the species are detrimental. Okay, so therefore we are going to give minus and minus. For predation, obviously one species is the predator is going to be having a benefit there, positive, and the prey is going to be negative. In the same way, parasitism, the organism which is living inside the host, that is parasite, will be beneficial, positive sign, and the one which is a host will be detrimental, that is negative sign. Commensalism, where the species one has a profit, it has a benefit, but the other organism, the other species has zero effect, no positive effect, no negative effect. Amensalism, in which even the species A, that is first species, is negative in nature, and the species B having a zero effect on it. We are going to see examples again. So moving on with the examples, direct example based match the following, and the sign conventions are being asked in the previous year question. You have to revise it multiple times. Mutualism is seen in lichens, mycorrhiza and fig wasp type of relationship. Competition is seen between two species competing for same resource. Even this statement could be asked as part of a question. Predation, where tiger deer predation, tiger is going to attack deer, or starfish is going to attack mussels, starfish mussels relation is an example of predation. Parasitism, Cuscuta on head and Plasmodium in human are examples of parasites. Commensalism, orchid on mango, barnacles on whale and cattle, egret cattle, that is sea anemone and clownfish. These are the examples of commensalism. And amensalism, it means penicillium killing bacteria, that is antibiosis. These are the examples. So these are the previous year questions. You have to stop the video and study. Moving on, let's see the population interaction, that is predation. Okay, what is predation? It means one species, a predator, usually stronger one, benefits by feeding on the another prey. Herbivore is form of predation in a broad ecological context. It means the predator is going to attack a herbivore animal. Okay, that is one. What happens here, there are roles of predators in the ecosystem. Okay, they are going to have energy transfer. It means having a predator, having a like tiger type larger animal who is going to kill other smaller herbivorous animal, has its own role in the ecosystem. Primary role is energy transfer from across trophic levels. Second role is keep the prey population under control, prevent the overpopulation and ecosystem instability. Biological control, example, prickly pear cactus in Australia was controlled by introducing a cactus feeding moth. And another, maintain species diversity by reducing competition among prey species, example, starfish disaster in rocky intertidal communities. When removed, more than 10 species of invertebrates became extinct within a year. So these are the roles of predators. Moving on, what are the adaptations to avoid the predation? For example, there are a few organisms, that is prey. It means the smaller organisms, smaller animals who are going to adapt their life so that the bigger carnivorous animals are not going to come and eat them. Those are called as prey adaptations. For example, cryptic coloration, that is camouflage. Insects, frogs blend with the surroundings so that the organism, the predated organism is not going to identify, and that's how they can be safe. Poisonous or distasteful, monarch butterfly acquires the chemical from caterpillar stage. Calotropis produces the cardiac glycosides, and that's how they become either poisonous or they become distasteful, so that any predator if attacks also, he is going to die or he is going to live that prey. Morphological differences, for example, thorns in acacia and cactus. These thorns are going to prevent from the animals or any other organisms to destroy it. These are called as morphological defenses. Chemical defenses, nicotine, caffeine, quinine, and strychnine, opium, all produced by plants as defense against the herbivores. We have to understand the key takeaways. For example, predators play crucial role in ecosystems by controlling the prey populations, transferring energy, biological control, and maintaining the biodiversity. So let's see the previous year questions. Statement based questions are present here. Match the following questions are also present. Direct, which chemical defense is used or produced by calotropis is being asked. What is the secondary metabolite such as nicotine which is used for, it is used for defense action. So stop the video here, see all these previous year questions and study these statements again, and you will come to know what are the expected questions in the next NEET examination. Now comes the prudent predators. What do you mean by prudent predators? The predators which are prudent means it is too efficient. Example, if a predator, it means the attacking animal, is too efficient and over exploits its prey, it is going to eat more than usual and both may become extinct. Hence, predators in nature are prudent. They do not eliminate the prey completely. Why? Let's see here. So a prudent predator is not going to eat completely. He is going to have some limit there, so that both the species should not go extinct. There is a understanding there. There is a prudence. Why predators are prudent? Energy needs limit the number of prey consumed. Handling time, time taken to search, capture, and kill and eat prey. Satiation, it means satisfaction level. Predators stop feeding when their hunger is satisfied. Presence of alternative prey and territorial behavior reduces the interspecific competition. So these are the reasons why predators are behaving with such a maturity that they are not going to eat all, they are going to eat with time, so that both the species will not get extinct. What is the ecological significance of this prudence or prudent predation? Prevents the overexploitation of the prey, ensures coexistence of predator and prey, maintains population balance and biodiversity, allows the continuous energy flow in the ecosystem. The predator prey dynamics, that is ideal example, this is the graph. Okay, prey population increases first, followed by predator. Increase in predator reduces the prey, then predator declines due to the lack of food. The cycle repeats. That's how the prey and predator is going to come. The blue line is an example of predator and the red line is an example for prey. Okay, let's see an example. Lynx is a predator, feeds on hare. Hare is a prey. When hare population increases, lynx population increases. As lynx increases, hare decreases. When hare becomes scarce, lynx also decline. Both population continue in cycles without driving each other to extinction. The key takeaways are predators in nature are prudent. They regulate the prey populations but do not eliminate them. This prudence ensures stability, coexistence, and biodiversity. A PYQ question, statement based question has been asked. Stop the video and study. Now comes population interactions as part of competition. Let's see what do you mean by competition. The word itself is self-explanatory in nature. Competition means obviously there is a type of interaction where two species are competing on each other, competing for survival or competing for a resource that is ultimately for survival, in which the fitness of one species is significantly lower in the presence of another species. Fitness, it means fitness to survive. It can attack, it can prevent, it can protect, it can survive. That type of a fitness, it is measured in terms of reduction in the intrinsic rate of increase. So we have studied what is intrinsic rate of increase of a population R. So if the R value is decreasing, then there is a competition. There are two types of competition. One is interspecific competition and another is intraspecific competition. The competition between two different species is called as interspecific, and the competition between a single species is called as the intraspecific. Example, high elephant density leads to intraspecific competition. Okay, here also we are going to use the sign convention, that is positive and negative, where in the interspecific also both are harmed and intraspecific also both the species are harmed. Let's see what are the important concepts in the competition. One is interference competition. Interference, it is there is some interference happening between the two organisms. We are going to see that one. Let's see. Feeding efficiency of one species is reduced due to the interfering presence of another species, even if the resources are abundant. Example, grass. Even though the grass is abundant, but the efficiency of the feeding will be decreased or reduced of one species because the another species has come there to eat grass. Example, goats and Abingdon tortoise. Goats had greater browsing efficiency, causing the tortoise extinction within a decade. Even though the grass is more, but the tortoise has to travel slowly, and within that period, obviously goat is going to eat the grass at a faster level. Second type of competition is exploitation competition. Both the species compete indirectly by using the same limiting resource. It means the limiting resource is shared limiting resource. For example, grass for both rabbit and goat. That type of is called as exploitation. Here you have to see the resource is limiting, whereas in the interference competition the resource is abundant. You have to see the difference, even though example is about grass here. Okay, competitive release: when a competitively superior species is removed, the inferior species expands its distribution dramatically. Example, Connell's experiment. This could be a direct question actually. Okay, you have to focus here. In the Connell's experiment, larger barnacle Balanus excludes smaller thalamus from intertidal zone. When Balanus removed, the thalamus expands. It means one species, if we will remove that species, the another is going to expand. That is called as competitive release. Now comes resource partitioning. What do you mean by resource partitioning? The term itself is self-explanatory. There is a resource, the species is going to partition, they are going to divide it. For example, competitors avoid competition by using different times, places, or food types. Example, MacArthur's 5 species experiment. One more scientist's experiment we have studied here, that is Cornell's. Here is MacArthur's 5 species. Cornell's experiments explains about competitive release, whereas MacArthur's 5 species experiment shows resource partitioning. Cornell's competitive release is as example of bananas, and here it is bird. So what happens is 5 species of warblers feeding on the same tree but at different foraging locations. For example, one feeds on the top layer, second the upper layer, then the middle layer, then lower and the bottom layer. This type of competition is decreased by sharing with time or place or food type. This is called as resource partitioning. Now comes the Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. This is very important. What is Gauss's competitive exclusion principle? Two closely related species competing for the same resources cannot coexist indefinitely. It means for unlimited period of time, for always, evergreen, they cannot live, they cannot coexist. If both the species which are actually closely related are going to compete for the same resource. So main important thing is two closely related species competing for same resource. The competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually. This is true when resources are limiting. So this is the graph which shows Gauss's principle. The green is competitor 1 which is superior, and competitor 2 red one is inferior, which is eventually going to die because one, the resource is limiting, and the second reason is both are closely related species. Previous year question. Stop the video here and study all the previous year question. You are going to understand the concept very clearly. Commensalism. Let's see the definition. These are very easy actually. One species benefits, the other is neither harmed nor benefited. It means species A is positive sign convention, the other is zero sign convention. What is the key takeaway of the commensalism? In commensalism, one species gains an advantage while the other remains unaffected. Let's see example. Orchid on a mango tree. Orchid grows as an epiphyte. Epiphyte is a type of plant that grows on another plant. On mango tree, using it for support to reach sunlight. The mango tree is neither harmed nor benefited is an example of commensalism. Barnacles on whale. Barnacles attach to the back of a whale and get a place to live and access to food. The whale is not affected. In the same way, cattle, egret and grazing cattle. Cattle egrets catch insects flushed out by grazing cattle. The cattle is neither harmed nor benefited. Sea anemone and clownfish. Clownfish gets protection from predators by living among the tentacles of sea anemone. The anemone gets no apparent benefit but also no harm. So these are the examples of commensalism. Direct PYQs can be expected from here. Stop the video and study the PYQs. Mutualism, same. But here both the species are benefited, often co-evolved and obligate each other. It is compulsory for them to live together. That is called as co-evolved and obligate. One is lichens, fungus plus alga or cyanobacteria. Association between fungus and photosynthetic algae or cyanobacteria. Fungus provides the shelter and water, algae provides the food. This is an example of mutualism. It is a lichens. Mycorrhiza, fungus plus plant root. Association between fungi and higher plant roots. Fungi help in nutrient absorption. Plant provides carbohydrates. Plant pollinator mutualism. Fig and wasp, a classic example. Tight one-to-one relationship. Female wasp lays eggs in fig fruit. Wasp pollinates the fig inflorescence. It means a group of flower is called as inflorescence. And fig provides some developing seeds as food for wasp larvae. General plant-pollinator interaction is also a mutualism. Plant provides pollen or nectar and animal provide pollination. Ophrys orchid, sexual deceit. One petal resembles female bee. Male bee is attracted and pseudo-copulates with the flower. Pollen gets attached to the bee and is transferred to another flower. Copulation means going into, here you have to understand is that copulation means going into intercourse, having sex actually. So the male bee is going to attract with a petal, actually that petal resembles the female, and that's how it is getting some benefit, and pollen is getting transferred, and that is having pollination. So previous year questions, stop the video and study the PYQs. Now comes the amensalism. What is amensalism? In amensalism, one species is harmed while the other species is neither harmed nor benefited. So species A is harmed and the species B is neither harmed or not benefited, unaffected. Penicillium fungus produces penicillin that kills bacteria like Staphylococcus. The fungus is unaffected. Okay, so here Penicillium fungus produces penicillin, staphylococcus. It is killing the bacteria. The penicillin produced by the penicillium inhibits the and kills the bacteria, but the fungus itself remains unaffected. PYQ you can see here. Corner concepts. There are a few questions which are actually like we usually miss it. There is one or two lines in NCERT. We are going to miss that one. We are going to study here. Like what is PAR? Like photosynthetically active radiation. So it is covered in ecosystem but appears here in context of productivity. Like photosynthetically active radiation. That type of radiation which is going to make the active photosynthesis happening in that ecosystem. Okay. What is the difference between the natality and the birth rate? Natality is the number of births per unit time, whereas rate is per capita births. NCERT uses them almost interchangeably. NCERT uses both the words similarly, but sometimes it can ask differently also. Why is biomass a better measure than number for a banyan tree? Because one banyan tree has huge biomass and ecological impact, while counting just one understates its role. That is why we are having different estimation when it comes to biomass. What is interference competition? We have studied that one. Both the resource is not limiting, unlimited, but it is one species going to interfere with the other species. Competitive release, with the release of one organism, the other organism is going to die. Removal, total removal. Okay, stop the video and revise all these things. It will be helpful. Now comes the predicted questions. What are the expected questions we are going to get from this topic, from organisms and population? Assertion reason. Okay. Stop the video and study. In logistic growth, the population size stops increasing when it reaches carrying capacity is assertion. Reason, at K, that is carrying capacity, the intrinsic rate of the natural increase, that is R, becomes 0. It is true, assertion is true, but R is false. It doesn't become 0 completely. You have to understand that one. Okay. R is always constant. We should talk about K here. Okay. At K, R is constant. You have to remember that one. So even the graph could be also a direct question here. There is a question on match the following, statement based question. Numerical question has been also given. Stop the video and practice that numerical question, and short answer type is also sometimes likely. Now comes to ecosystem. Okay, the highest scoring topic is productivity, GPP, NPP, secondary productivity, PAR, and factors. Next, the highest weightage is energy flow, 10%, law, food chain versus food web, trophic levels, all these things. And another higher expected weightage is ecological pyramids. Okay, ecological pyramids. Let's go. Definition of ecosystem: a functional unit of nature. You can see the image there, where living organisms interact among themselves and also with the surrounding physical environment. It means the system for ecology is called as ecosystem, because the definition of the ecology was also similar. Size varies from a small pond to a large forest or a sea. There could be many types of ecosystem. The entire biosphere is a global ecosystem. Categories of ecosystems are terrestrial, forest ecosystem, grassland, desert, etc. Aquatic like pond ecosystem, lake ecosystem, wetland ecosystem, river ecosystem, and estuary ecosystem. Man-made like crop fields and aquariums are also ecosystems. Four functional aspects of an ecosystem you have to memorize. One is, what is the productivity of that ecosystem? 2 is decomposition of the ecosystem, 3 is energy flow, and 4 is nutrient cycling of that ecosystem. Now comes the structure of an ecosystem. Species composition, identification and enumeration of plant and animal species. Like in that ecosystem, what all types of animals and organisms and plants and other species live. You have to identify that and also enumerate. You have to have a list of that ecosystem, and those type of organisms are specific to that ecosystem only. This is called as species composition. So next comes stratification. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels is called as stratification. Strata means a level actually. Top strata trees, second strata shrubs, and bottom strata is herbs and grasses. Example, in a forest, trees occupy top strata. This is a characteristic of a biological community, not of a population. You have to understand this one, okay? And compare this each point with the previous year question. Abiotic components, non-living physical and chemical factors of the environment is called as abiotic components like water, soil, air, inorganic nutrients, solar input, temperature, and day length, that is photoperiod. Biotic components, living components of the ecosystem, producers, autotrophs, consumers, heterotrophs, and decomposers like that are saprophytes like bacteria and fungi. Now comes the productivity. Most of the questions are from productivity. Let's see what is productivity. It is primary productivity, amount of biomass or organic matter produced by plants through photosynthesis is called as productivity. It is expressed in gram per meter square or kilocalories per meter square. Productivity is rate of biomass production expressed as gram per meter square per year or kilogram per meter square per year. So primary productivity, primary production, and productivity is rate. Secondary production, it is rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers, occurs in heterotrophs, depends on food consumed and assimilation efficiency. All these are the factors for secondary production. Let's see about primary production. In primary production, there are two types. One is gross primary productivity and another is net primary productivity. What is gross primary productivity? Gross means usually total, GPP. Total organic matter synthesized during photosynthesis, total photosynthetic production, and before respiratory losses. These are the key points you have to remember when it comes to GPP. Net primary productivity, NPP. Biomass remaining after respiration, available for heterotrophs, available for herbivores and decomposers is NPP. So now comes the R value, that is respiratory loss. So therefore GPP minus R, that is respiratory loss, is equals to NPP, that is net primary productivity. Now let's see what is secondary productivity. Okay. Now rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers is called as secondary productivity, occurs in heterotrophs. Why does it occurs in heterotrophs? Because it is by consumers. We are talking about the formation of new organic matter by consumers. So how it is happening, it depends on food consumed and assimilation efficiency. For example, plants are consumed by grasshopper, herbivore, and grasshoppers are eaten by frog, carnivore. Frog is again eaten by snake, carnivore, and snake is eaten by eagle, that is top carnivore. Okay, now this is second productivity, you have to imagine. Now comes the important exam concepts. Standing crop, what do you mean by standing crop? It means mass of a living matter present at a trophic level at a particular time. It means at one trophic level, consider it to be producers or consumers. Okay, so at that trophic level, mass of a living matter at that particular time is called as standing crop. Now what is standing state? It is quantity of nutrients present in ecosystem at a given time, that is especially sodium, potassium and nitrogen. Okay, no, nitrogen, potassium and nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, sorry. Okay, so these nutrients present at a given time in that ecosystem is called as standing state. Primary energy source is always solar energy. Okay, now these are the previous year questions. You have to see this, stop the video and study the previous year questions. Let's see what is PAR and global productivity. PAR stands for photosynthetically active radiation. What do you mean by PAR? PAR means of the incident solar radiation, less than 50% is PAR, wavelength from 400 to 700 nanometers of the light. So only 50% or less than 50% is only photosynthetically active radiation. It means out of all the sun rays falling on the earth and on plants, less than 50% is only utilized, and that is called as photosynthetically active radiation. Plants capture only 2 to 10% of the PAR or 1 to 5% of the total incident radiation. You should remember these numbers because these numbers are almost like easy to forget of such kind, so you have to remember it by revising multiple times. So plants capture only 2 to 10% of the PAR to produce the NPP. So net productivity is there now. That net primary productivity, in order to produce the net primary productivity, plants consume only 2 to 10% of the photosynthetically active radiation. Incident solar radiation is 100%. PAR is less than 50%, out of which only 2 to 10% of the PAR is captured by the plants and used to produce the NPP. Now, this capture of this PAR or sunlight is happening in the chloroplast. Okay. Let's PYQ corner. Of the total incident solar radiation, the proportion of PAR is less than 50%. Direct statement NCERT line question. In the same way, previous year question, PAR captured by the plants is 2 to 10% or 1 to 5% of the total incident radiation. Okay, now let's see what are the key points. The key points to remember: total incident radiation is 100%, PAR is less than 50%, captured by plants is 2 to 10% of PAR or 1 to 5% of the total radiation, and that gives rise to NPP production. Let's see what do you mean by global productivity. The term itself is self-explanatory in nature. Annual net primary productivity of whole biosphere is nearly almost 170 billion tons dry weight. Oceans occupy 70% of the surface and contribute only 55 billion tons dry weight. Because of low nutrient availability, especially nitrogen and organic nutrients in the open oceans, even though the earth surface is covered 70%, but the dry weight which is it is contributing in the net primary productivity is 55 billion tons. Highest annual net primary productivity, it is very important. Highest annual net primary productivity is seen in tropical rainforest. Let's see the PYQs. Okay, stop the video and study the PYQs. So let's see what is decomposition. Okay, now the definition of the decomposition is the process by which decomposers means bacteria and fungi. So the process by which the decomposers, that is bacteria and fungi, break down complex organic matter, detritus, into inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water and nutrients. So basically detritus means dead organic matter. Second, raw material for decomposition. What do you need in order to go into decomposition? Detritus. It means dead plant remains, leaves, bark and flowers, and dead animal remains including fecal matter. So dead plants and dead animals and fecal matter, all that are converted into the decomposed matter. Steps of decomposition. This is also very important. What are the steps of decomposition? The steps are fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humidification and mineralization. Now, in order to study the whole process of decomposition, we are actually studying into steps. But in nature, naturally, all these steps operate simultaneously in nature. So let's study fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humidification, and mineralization. So, what is fragmentation? Breakdown of detritus into smaller particles is called as fragmentation. Next comes the agent. Who does that one? Detritivores, example earthworm. Earthworm is going to break down the detritus. Okay. Second step is leaching. Water soluble inorganic nutrients go down into soil and get precipitated as unavailable salts. So who is the agent who does this leaching is water. Okay, now comes catabolism, done by bacterial and fungal enzymes. Degradation of detritus into simpler inorganic substances by enzymes is called as catabolism. Humification, done by microbes. Accumulation of a dark colored amorphous substance called humus. And last step is mineralization, done by again microbes. Further degradation of the humus by microbes to release inorganic nutrients is called as mineralization. So these are the steps. In the step of mineralization, these nitrous and calcium and phosphorus and potassium and magnesium ions, inorganic nutrients are released. So summary flow is detritus, dead organic matter turns into fragmentation by retrivores, then leaching by water, catabolism by enzymes, humification, that is humus formation, mineralization, that is release of inorganic materials. Moving on, decomposition compared with the PYQs. All these concepts are almost similar, but one thing you have to understand is how the questions are being uh, made, especially when it comes to humus. The characteristics of humus here are dark colored, it is amorphous, it is highly resistant to microbial action, so decomposes very slowly, colloidal in nature, and serves as a reservoir of nutrients. So like statements, true or false statements can be asked about humus. Humus is a dark colored amorphous structure, it is highly resistant to microbial action, it decomposes very slowly, colloidal in nature, serves as a reservoir of nutrients. So this is about humus. Previous year questions you can see here. The process of decomposition is carried out by bacteria and fungi. Detritus is broken into smaller particles in fragmentation. What is mineralization? All these are direct statement based questions. Now what happens is factors affecting the decomposition rate. So what are the factors, the environmental factors which are going to affect the decomposition, faster or slower? So faster decomposition, detritus rich in nitrogen and water soluble substances, that is sugar. Next, whereas in the slower, detritus rich in lignin and chitin. Warm and moist environment, there is a faster decomposition, whereas when the temperature is low and anaerobiosis, that is water logging, then the slower decomposition happens. Oxygen is present, aerobic, then there is faster decomposition, and if in the absence of the oxygen, anaerobic conditions, there is a slower decomposition. Important point you have to remember is water logging. Water logging slows the decomposition. Previous year questions, you can stop the video here and study how the questions has been framed. Food chain and food web. Let's see the definitions first of all. Food chain, linear sequence of organisms through which energy and nutrients pass, is called as food chain. The key word here is linear, it means in a sequence. Okay, then differs is what is food web. Network of interconnected food chains is called as food web. Okay, like grass is a producer, grasshopper is a herbivore, frog is a primary carnivore, snake is a secondary carnivore, and eagle is a tertiary carnivore. So this linear arrangement is called as food chain. But when you are you going to see that multiple organisms, how are they affecting, that is called as food web or network. Important terms you have to understand is grazing food chain begins with living plants. Those food chains which are starting with the living plants, that is producers, are called as grazing food chains. You have to understand what do you mean by detritus food chain. It means those food chains which are beginning with the dead organic matter, that is detritus. Decomposers and detritivores are the main components. Example, dead leaves, detritus, earthworms is a detritivore, then bacteria is a decomposer, then fungi is a decomposer, then nutrients released as inorganic matter. So this is called as detritus food chain. Important terms you have to understand is trophic levels. The trophic level, the position an organism occupies in a food chain based on its feeding relationship, is called as trophic level. Trophic level 1, that is first trophic level, producers, also called as autotrophs, are green plants and phytoplankton. Secondary trophic level is primary consumer, that is herbivores, example grasshopper and zooplankton. Third trophic level is secondary consumer, that is primary carnivores, example frog and small fishes. And fourth trophic level is tertiary consumer, that is secondary carnivores, example snake, large fish and birds of prey. Let's see the key takeaways. Okay, food chain is linear, food web is a network. GFC, that is grazing food chain, begins with living producers, whereas the DF, that is detritus food chain, begins with detritus. GFC dominates in aquatic ecosystems and DFC dominates in the terrestrial ecosystems. Energy and nutrients flow through trophic levels stepwise. Previous year questions, direct questions are asked. It is very easy to understand also. Stop the video and go through these previous year questions. Standing crop and standing state. What do you mean by standing crop? Let's see. Standing crop means mass of living material, that is biomass, or number of individuals at a trophic level at a given time. In an ecosystem we are talking about, okay? It refers to the total amount of living organisms present in a particular area or at a trophic level at a specific time, measured as a fresh weight or dry weight. Dry weight is more accurate because water content varies. So we are going to talk about the dry weight. Okay, so fresh water includes the water content, whereas the dry weight water is removed, and it is more accurate measurement in order to study the living material, that is biomass. Let's know what is standing state. It means amount of nutrients like carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, etc. present in the soil at any given time is called a standing state of that soil. It refers to the total quantity of nutrients present in the soil at a particular time, not to be confused with standing crop. Stop the video here and study the previous year question. 10% law, that is Lindemann law. This is very important. Multiple times the questions has been asked. Let's see what does it mean. The Lindemann law states only 10% of the energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next trophic level. The rest 90% is lost as heat during respiration, used for metabolism, or not consumed. Whatever the 90% is lost, only 10% is transferred. This limits the number of trophic levels, usually 3 to 4 in a grazing food chain. For example, flow of energy in a food chain from first trophic level producers to second trophic level, that is primary consumers, only 10% is consumed. It means 90% as heat has been lost or not consumed. From T2, that is primary consumer, to secondary consumer, T3 level, another 10% is only consumed. In the same way, it reaches to the tertiary consumers, T4. Maximum energy is always in the T1 producers in a terrestrial ecosystem. You have to remember that one. Okay, stop the video here. Study the previous year question, how this question has been converted into a numerical question also. Ecological pyramids, very important, one of the easiest topics also, but sometimes these things are confused. First of all, let's understand what do you mean by an ecological pyramid. Definition: graphical representation of the relationship between different trophic levels in terms of number, biomass, or energy. It means we are trying to show the relationship of one trophic level to the another trophic level in a graphical pattern. It means by taking number of organisms or biomass of that level or the energy transfer. By taking any these three, we are going to form a presentation. That presentation is called as ecological pyramid. Now comes the types of pyramid. We are going to obviously study the pyramid in terms of number, in terms of biomass and energy. Let's see the pyramid of number. Based on number of individuals per unit area at each trophic level. Usually the number pyramid is upright in grassland and pond ecosystems. What do you mean by upright? It means producers are higher in number compared to the primary consumers. The primary consumers are higher in number compared to secondary consumers. But this number pyramid is inverted in parasitic food chains. It means one tree supports many herbivores which support many parasites. But when it comes to forest ecosystem, the pyramid of number can be spindle shaped. A single tree, many insects, few birds. So when depending upon the ecosystem and depending upon the food chain also, the pyramid of number changes. Let's revise. That is upright in grassland and pond ecosystem, inverted in parasitic food chains, and in forest ecosystem the pyramid is spindle shaped. So you can see the diagram also here. Upright in grassland and pond, inverted in when it comes to parasitic food chain, and spindle shaped when it comes to forest ecosystem. Okay. Stop the video here, study the previous year questions and analyze how these questions are coming from these topic. Okay, the shape of a pyramid of numbers depends on the number of individuals at each trophic level and the type of ecosystem. Both the type and the number is going to decide the shape of the pyramid. Now comes the pyramid of mass. So the pyramid of biomass is based on biomass. It means dry weight at each trophic level, usually upright in terrestrial ecosystems, inverted in aquatic sea ecosystems. Why the sea ecosystems pyramid of biomass is inverted is because the phytoplankton producers are very short lifespan. Okay, stop the video and study the previous year questions. Upright pyramid of biomass in terrestrial ecosystems, and here the inverted biomass in aquatic or sea ecosystem. The main reason is biomass of consumers is more than the producers at any given time. Here biomass decreases at the higher trophic levels when from the producers to the tertiary consumer. That is called as pyramid of biomass. Now comes the pyramid of energy. First of all, let's understand what do you mean by the pyramid of energy. The pyramid of energy represents the amount of energy available at each trophic level of a food chain or ecosystem. So mainly the amount of energy available at the trophic level, amount of energy. Previously we have studied about number, then we have studied about biomass, now it's energy. Energy is expressed as kilocalories per meter square per year. Key features are based on energy content at each trophic level, measured as kilocalories per meter square per year, represents the flow of energy over time. Most accurate ecological pyramid is the pyramid of energy, always upright in all ecosystems, cannot be inverted. So here is the example. Why is the pyramid of energy always upright? Only about 10% of energy passes to the next trophic level, that 10% law. Nearly 90% of energy is lost as heat during respiration and metabolic activities. Energy continuously decreases from producers to top consumers. Therefore, an inverted energy pyramid is impossible. The 10% law example energy transfer numerical question can be asked from here. The NEET example pearl are pyramid of number may be upright or inverted. Pyramid of biomass may be upright or inverted depending upon the ecosystem, but the pyramid of energy is always upright. The previous year questions you can see here. Okay. Quick facts. Energy decrease at each trophic level. Follows the 10% law of energy transfer. Expressed per unit area per year. Applies to all types of ecosystems, terrestrial, aquatic and marine. Energy decreases at every trophic level due to the 10% law. Hence the pyramid of energy is always upright and never inverted. Now comes the limitations of ecological pyramids. 1. Limitation means that it doesn't show something, it has some backlogs. Okay, do not take into account the same species belonging to two or more trophic levels. Examples: a sparrow eats both seeds and insects, occupies T2 and T3. Second, assume a simple food chain but food webs exist in nature. Third, do not accommodate a food web. 4. Saprophytes, that is decomposers, are not given any place in ecological pyramids, even though they play a vital role. So previous year question, which one is not a limitation of ecological pyramids? It accommodates a food web? No, it does not accommodate a food web. Moving on, nutrient cycles or biogeochemical cycles. The word itself explains that these cycles we are going to study about the nutrient. It means how that nutrient is procured from the nature, how that nutrient is moving from one trophic level to another trophic level, or from one organism to another organism, how that nutrient is released in the atmosphere or air or water, and how that nutrient is again recycled. So bio means living form, geo means earth, and chemical means the chemical condition of a nutrient. This is called as biogeochemical cycles. There are two types of cycles. One, gaseous cycles. Two, sedimentary cycles. Gaseous cycles reservoir in atmosphere or hydrosphere. Example, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, water. Sedimentary cycles reservoir in Earth's crust, that is lithosphere. Examples, phosphorus cycle, calcium cycle, magnesium cycle, and sulfur has both gaseous and sedimentary phases. Stop the video and study the previous year question properly. Carbon cycle. Okay, now about 71% of the total global carbon is found in oceans in a dissolved form. Only 1% is in the atmosphere. Annual fixation of the carbon through photosynthesis is approximately 4 into 10 to the power of 13 kg. So 71% oceans dissolved carbon, 1% is atmosphere, 28% other reservoirs like soils, rocks, fossil fuels, and biota, etc. So you can see the cycle. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere goes to photosynthesis for respiration, animal respiration, combustion, ASC, all you can see in this diagram. Phosphorus cycle. Okay, key points are: the reservoir pool of the phosphorus is phosphate rocks in the lithosphere of the earth. Weathering of rocks. Weathering means breakdown. Weathering of rocks accelerate the phosphorus cycle. There is no gaseous state in the phosphorus cycle. Statement based questions can be asked. Stop the video and study how this phosphorus is becoming a part of the whole biogeochemical cycle. Reservoir pool for the phosphate is phosphate rocks. Weathering of the rock accelerates the cycle. There is no gaseous state here. Sedimentation and geological uplift return the phosphate to rocks over long time scales. Ecological succession. This is very important. Here, first of all, let's study what do you mean by ecological succession. Gradual and predictable change in the species. First of all, gradual. It means with time. With the due course of time, what are the changes happening in the species, and those changes which we can detect, which we can predict. Predictable change in the species composition of a community in a given area over time is called as ecological succession. The community that gets established at the end is called as climax community or basic conditions. Let's see what are the types of succession. There are two types of successions. One is hydrarch succession and another is xerarch succession. The hydrarch succession is also called as hydrosia, and the xerarch succession is also called as xerosia. What happens in the hydrarch is hydro means water. So it begins in water, pond or lake. Pioneer species of the hydrarch succession are phytoplankton, diatoms, unicellular algae, blue-green algae. Stages are phytoplankton, submerged plants, example hydrilla and vallisneria, rooted floating plants, example pistia, reed swamp, scripus, marsh meadow, lantana, and woodland, that is climax forest mesic. The second stage of the hydrosia is occupied by submerged plants like vallisneria. Dear students, I would request to the previous slide, stop the video there and study all the previous year questions along with the content provided on the screen. Now moving on with this slide, this is very important. Primary versus secondary succession. Let us see what do you mean by primary and secondary succession. Primary succession begins on a previously unoccupied area with no soil. Takes longer time. Obviously it is primary, it means it is happening for the first time. When it is happening for the first time, obviously it is not previously occupied. So previously unoccupied area with no soil, bare rock, newly cooled lava, sand dunes, it takes longer time. But when it comes to secondary succession, begins on an area where a community previously existed but was disturbed, deforested site or abandoned farmland, flooded land faster because soil is already present. So primary succession takes longer time and secondary succession takes the faster time. Let's see with an example. The two pictures here can be easily compared to understand the primary succession when compared with the secondary succession. Begins on a previously unoccupied area with no soil. Obviously there is a bare rock. Then comes the pioneered species. It means the first species there like lichens and mosses. Then soil formation and grasses. Then herbs, shrubs and young trees. Then the climax community is a stable forest. So examples here are bare rock, newly cooled lava, sand dunes, glacial till, newly formed islands. All are the examples for primary succession. Now comes the secondary succession. Begins on an area where a community previously existed but was disturbed. Soil is already present. So disturbed area, example deforested site. You can see here. Then it turns into grasses and herbaceous plants, then that turns into shrubs and young trees, and that turns into the climax community, that is a stable forest. Examples of the secondary succession here are deforested site, abandoned farmland, flooded land, areas after fire. So primary succession takes longer time, whereas the secondary succession takes faster because soil is already present. Previous year question was primary succession refers to development on newly exposed habitat with no record of earlier vegetation, so unoccupied area. Moving on, corner concepts but small but tested. So there are some concepts which are present in the NCERT which we usually don't focus because we are usually missing, but they are important and questions have been asked. So who is the father of ecology in India? So the father of ecology is Ramdeo Misra. He established teaching and research in ecology at Banaras Hindu University. The government of India established the National Committee for Environmental Planning and Coordination 1972 due to his efforts. So who is known as the father of ecology in India? Previous year question 2025. Answer is Ramdeo Misra. What is the unit of productivity? We have already studied this one. Also, we have studied about the standing crop. Why is dry weight preferred over the fresh weight for biomass measurement? Because water content varies. Dry weight is more accurate. What is the difference between a standing crop and a standing state? Standing crop means biomass of all living organisms, whereas the standing state means the amount of inorganic nutrients in soil present at that time. What is humus? What is the role of detritivores? What is catabolism in decomposition? What is leaching? What is mineralization? What percentage of PAR is captured by plants? What is the first trophic level always? Why is the pyramid energy always upright? Why is the pyramid of biomass is C is inverted? What is the pioneer community? What is the climax community? So these questions when it comes to what and why should be learned at a very keen level. So stop the video here and study all these corner concepts. There are 15 in number. Obviously there could be a question from this one. Predicted questions for future NEET from ecosystem. So these are the questions that are expected to come in your next NEET exam. Okay, I am predicting that this could be the pattern. So you can see that there is an assertion reason, there is match the following, sequence based question and diagram based question where broad base and narrow top and inverted pyramid. Then he is going to ask the questions, statement based questions and a numerical question also. I request you all the students to stop the video here and study all the predicted questions, maybe note it down, and before the exam read all these predicted questions again. Examiner's blueprint when it comes to biodiversity and conservation chapter, high probable questions are patterns of biodiversity like latitudinal gradient, species area relationship, etc. And another high expected high yield topic is loss of biodiversity like extinctions rates, evil quartet, etc. Another high yield topic is in situ conservation like hotspots, biosphere reserves, national parks, sanctuaries, sacred groves, etc. And another high yield topic is ex situ conservation like zoos, botanical gardens, seed banks, cryopreservation and tissue culture. So this is just to give you an idea that from this chapter what all questions can be expected. Moving on, let's see what do you mean by biodiversity and its levels. Okay, the definition of the biodiversity was given by Edward Wilson. Biodiversity is the combined diversity at all levels of biological organization. The term was popularized by the sociobiologist Edward Wilson. The levels of biodiversity most important, and it is one of the NEET favorite topic. One is genetic diversity, 2 species diversity, and 3 ecological diversity. Genetic diversity means diversity at the genetic level within a single species over its distributional range. Example, you can see the example here. Rauwolfia vomitoria, a medicinal plant, shows variation in potency and concentration of the active chemical reserpine in different Himalayan regions. So there is only one plant, but that plant, depending upon the Himalayan region, the concentration of the chemical present in it is different. The reason behind that one is genetic diversity. Same goes with rice. 50,000 strains of rice are present, and that also goes with mango. So mango, rice and Rauwolfia vomitoria is an example of genetic diversity. Species diversity, diversity at the species level. Example, Western Ghats have greater amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. Ecological diversity, diversity at the ecosystem level. Example, India has deserts, rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, wetlands, estuaries, and alpine meadows. Much greater ecological diversity than a Scandinavian country like Norway. So there is diverse in the ecosystems also in India. Stop the video here and study the previous year question. After studying this previous year question, you will try to understand that from this area what are the more expected questions in the similar pattern. Moving on, how many species are there when it comes to ecological studies? Global species diversity. Even though these topics seems to be like less important because it is telling about only numbers, but sometimes NCERT Direct is going to ask data-based or fact-based questions, and that is going to affect your marks. So it is better for you to understand and also by heart the numbers. Described species so far slightly more than 1.5 million according to the IUCN 2004. Estimated total species, Robert may report about 7 million, and extreme estimates range from 20 to 50 millions. Now comes the additional points. Prokaryotes not included in these estimates because conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable. Many are unculturable. If molecular criteria are used, their diversity alone might run into millions. So why the prokaryotes are not included in the counting of the global species diversity could be a question, and there could be some statements. You better focus on this point in order to get your answer correct. Moving on, let's see about the distribution among the major taxa. When it comes to animals, okay, so more than 70% of all the described species are actually animals. Among animals also, insects make up more than 70% of the total. That is, more than 70% of the animals are insects. Out of every 10 animals, 7 are insects. When it comes to plants, including the algae, fungi, bryophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms, no more than 22% of the total described species. When it comes to fungi, number of fungi species is more than the combined total of fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. Stop the video here and study the previous year questions. Now, India's share of the global diversity. Key points. India has only 2.4% of the world's land area but contributes to 8.1% of the global species diversity. India is one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world. Recorded species in India, nearly 45,000 species of plants and twice as many animals, that is 90,000. If we accept May's global estimate, only 22% of the total species described so far, then India may have more than 1 lakh plant species and 3 lakh animal species yet to be discovered. India versus world. Land area in India, it is 2.4%, whereas the species diversity in India is 8.1%. Plants in India are 45,000, animal is 90,000 species. Plant species potential undiscovered diversity is 1 lakh, and for animal it is more than 3 lakhs. India's diverse habitats from Himalayas to deserts, from rainforests to coral reefs make it one of the richest biodiversity hotspots in the world. Stop the video here and study the previous year question. Patterns of biodiversity. When it comes to the earth and the seasonal changes, we have to study the patterns of the biodiversity. Let's study first one, latitudinal gradients. What do you mean by latitudinal gradients? It means species diversity decreases. It is very important. Species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator towards the poles. So when we start from equator and we move towards the poles, the species diversity is decreasing. Tropics, that is 23 degree 5 minutes north to 23 degree 5 minutes south, harbor more species than the temperate or polar regions. This is called as latitudinal gradients. Example birds, Colombia near equator, India tropical latitudes, New York 105 species, and in Greenland it is 56 species. You can see from equator to the towards the polar region, the number of species are decreasing. Okay, tropical forests in the Ecuador, up to 10 times as many vascular plant species as a temperate forest of equal area in the USA. When it comes to Amazon rainforest, greatest biodiversity on earth, plant species more than 40,000, fishes more than 3,000 species, birds more than 1,300 species, mammals 427 species, amphibians 427, reptiles 378, and invertebrates more than 1,25,000 species. There may be at least 2 million insect species waiting to be discovered in Amazon. Why are tropics richer? Three main hypotheses. One is speciation is a function of time. Two, tropical environments are less seasonal, more constant and predictable. Three, more solar energy available in the tropics. Let's see what does it mean by. The first reason why tropics are richer is tropical latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed for millions of years, no frequent glaciations, more evolutionary time for species diversification. So assertion, reason, or statement based question, or why is this happening, that type of question can be expected from why the tropics are richer when it comes to species diversity. Now, second reason is tropical environments are less seasonal, more constant and predictable. Constant environments promote niche specialization and greater species diversity. More solar energy available in the tropics. Higher solar energy, higher productivity indirectly contributes to greater diversity. Stop the video and study the previous year question. Now comes the species area relationships. Alexander von Humboldt. This graph is called as about the species area relationships. We have to directly come to direct key points, okay, because this is not a story. You have to understand the relationship within a region. Species richness increases with increase in explored area, but only up to a limit. It means with the increase in area, species diversity will increase, but up to a limit. After that one, it will not. The relationship is rectangular hyperbola. So this relationship is a rectangular hyperbola, but on a logarithmic scale, if you convert into log values, then it is a straight line described by the equation log s is equal to log c plus z log a. Now you have to by heart this as is actually, or you can obviously understand, but the terms are in physical quantities. So log s stands for species richness, a stands for area, and z stands for slope of the line. The word slope of the line means regression coefficient. What do you mean by regression? As we have seen that after a time, even though area increases, the richness is going to stop. There is a limit. That decrease even after the increase of the area is called as regression coefficient, and C is called as y-intercept. You can see one graph here which is basically a species area curve, and the other graph is actually also a species area curve, but that is in a logarithmic values. So there is a straight line there. The question will be directly from the equation, and what are those word or letters mean, what does S stands for, what does A stands for. These direct fact based questions also can come. Now one more important topic is Z value. The Z value for small areas within a region and a Z value for a very large areas entire continent is different. Let's see what are those. You can see in the slide here, Z value lies in the range of 0.1 to 0.2 regardless of the taxonomic group or region. So in the smaller areas, whatever taxon it is, either it's an animal or insect or plant or whatever that taxon it is, but if the area is small, the Z value is always between 0.1 to 0.2. Example, plants in Britain, birds in California, and mollusk in New York. Slopes are amazingly similar. Now when the area is very large, then the Z value is steeper, that is in the range of 0.6 to 1.2. For frugivorous birds and mammals in the tropical forests of different continents, Z is equals to 1.15. These Z values you also have to by heart, along with the examples of the small region and the larger region. He might give you a question that the area is plants in Britain and a small region, what could be the Z value? So you have to by heart the examples of regions, and if the smaller is the region, what is the Z value, and if the region is larger, then what is the Z value? You have to know this one. I would request you all to stop the video and study the PYQ, that is previous year question corner there. Let's see key takeaways. Species richness increases with area but reaches a limit, that is called as rectangular hyperbola, and we have also seen the logarithmic graph here also. On a log-log plot, obviously it becomes a straight line. For a small areas, there is 0.1 to 0.2. Now moving on to the next slide. Importance of species diversity to the ecosystem. Now, you know that there is a species diversity. Now, having many species, diverse species is good for the ecosystem or bad for the ecosystem. That is called as importance of the species diversity to the ecosystem. Now, there are many reasons. Let's see one by one. One is stability and productivity. So let's study stability and productivity. The word itself tells that how the diversity of species is going to produce the stability and productivity in that ecosystem. David Tillman's long-term ecosystem experiments using outdoor plots showed plots with more species showed less year-to-year variation in total biomass. Increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. So this was the experiment done by David Tillman, called as Tillman's experiment. The result was obviously variation was seen in the total biomass and also mean total biomass productivity. Both the things were seen with increasing diversity. So greater species richness, less variation, more stability. Greater species richness, higher biomass, more productivity. So this was the finding about the stability and productivity. Second was Rivet-Popper hypothesis given by Paul Ehrlich. Rivet popper. Basically, let's understand what is the meaning of the word rivet. Okay, so rivets are these joining parts of the aeroplane. Okay, these are called as rivets. So he's trying to give a theory, a hypothesis with an example in order to understand about the species. The example here is the plane rivets. Okay, every passenger popping a rivet causing extinction, initially no effect on flight safety, but as more rivets are removed, the plane becomes dangerously weak. Which rivet is removed is critical. Loss of key species rivets on wings is more serious than loss of a few rivets on seats or windows. So critical, it means there is one species. When that is lost, then the whole ecosystem comes under the danger impact. As more and more rivets are removed, the structure fails and the plane crashes. Similarly, excessive loss of species can collapse the ecosystem functioning. A previous year question has been shown here. Loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. Here we are going to study which species are going extinct. They are being lost completely, and what is their impact also, and what are the other examples. Extinction rates past and present. Past extinctions, like for example, colonization of the tropical Pacific islands by humans led to extinction of more than 2000 species of native birds. Recent extinctions last 500 years. IUCN Red List of 2004 shows that 784 species, 338 vertebrates and 359 invertebrates and 87 plants have been extinct. Examples of recent extinctions include dodo, Mauritius, quagga, Africa, thylacine, Australia, Steller's sea cow, Russia, and three subspecies of tiger like Bali, Javan, and Caspian. This has been lost completely in the recent years. Last 20 years alone, 27 species have disappeared. Currently threatened species, it means those species who are about to face extinction, they are about to completely lost the earth. That is called as that those are threatened, that those are more than 15,500 species. Threatened species worldwide are 12% of the all bird species are threatened, 23% of all the mammal species are threatened, 31 species of all the gymnosperm species are threatened, and 32 species of the all amphibian species are threatened. These number and percentage you have to by heart. Direct statement based and numerical numbers can come as questions. Examples of recent extinctions, as we have studied, dodo in Mauritius, quagga in Africa, and thylacine in Australia, and stellar sea cow in Russia, and three subspecies of tiger, that is Bali, Jawar, and Caspian. These questions can also come in match the following format. What do you mean by sixth extinction? The present episode is different from previous five mass extinctions because the rate is much higher. Current extinction rate are 100 to 1000 times faster than the pre-human times. If trends continue, nearly half of all the species might be wiped out within the next 100 years. So stop the video here and study the previous year questions. Causes of biodiversity loss, the evil quoted. That it means there are four major causes, okay, and these evil major causes are evil. It means they are actually bad for the biodiversity. Let's study the causes. Okay, one is habitat loss and fragmentation. The most important cause of the biodiversity is habitat loss and fragmentation. Let's see. Tropical rainforest once covered more than 14% of the earth's land surface, now only 6%. By the time you finish reading this chapter, 1000 more hectares of rainforest would have been lost. It means every hour. Amazon rainforest, called the lungs of the planet, is being cut for soya beans and beef cattle. Large habitats broken into fragments affects the large mammals, birds, and migratory species. So because of the habitat loss, these all things are affecting the biodiversity. You should remember, once the it was a continuous forest, now the forest is being fragmented and reduced. Examples of the habitat loss is deforestation for agriculture, expansion of cities, mining and infrastructure projects, and roads and dams fragment the habitats. So we have to protect the habitats in order to protect the life, and that's how you protect the biodiversity. Next is overexploitation. It means overuse. For example, stellar sea cow and passenger pigeon extinct due to overhunting. So a lot of people will hunt at a larger scale, and that's how they are becoming extinct. So overhunting or overexploitation. Many marine fish populations are over harvested. They are being taken at a large scale. Alien species invention. For example, if a species is introduced in an area, then the other actual natural species of that habitat will be lost, and that's how this alien species invasion is affecting the biodiversity. For example, Nile perch in Lake Victoria, East Africa, extinction of more than 200 species of the cichlid fish. Okay, so this Nile perch is causing the extinction of other species fishes. Okay, invasive weeds in India are lantana camara and parthenium carrot grass and Icornia, that is water hyacinth. So these are the species which are actually invasive weeds in India. You have to remember the names also, and what is their function and what are the effects because of that. Now comes the co-extinctions. When a host species becomes extinct, its unique parasites also become extinct. For example, the host extinction of species in a co-evolved mutualism, example like a plant pollinator, leads to extinction of the other. Okay, so this is called as co-extinctions. Let's study the previous year question when it comes to the evil quartet. I would request you to stop the video here and read all the previous year question and try to understand what type of questions the examiner is asking from this topic. Okay. Major causes of the biodiversity is obviously overexploitation, alien species, and coextinction. You have to remember the images also. Sometimes match the following questions can come here. Then comes the how do we conserve biodiversity? Like how are we going to preserve these extinction and the loss of biodiversity? That is called as conservation. Okay, and in situ conservation, that is on site. It means protecting the whole ecosystem so that all biodiversity at all levels is protected. Biodiversity hotspots, regions with high species richness, high degree of endemism, and accelerated habit loss. Initially, 25 hotspots were identified. Now, 34 hotspots worldwide. 3 hotspots in India, Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and Himalaya. All hotspots together cover less than 2% of Earth's land area, but protecting them could reduce ongoing mass extinctions by almost 30%. Now, similarly, India's protected areas, according to the NCERT figures, is 14 biosphere reserves, 90 national parks, and 448 wildlife sanctuaries. Numbers may have increased, but no NCERT figures for NEET. Sacred groves, tracts of forest set aside due to religious or cultural traditions given total protection. Found in Khasi and Jaintia Hills, Meghalaya, Arveli Hills in Rajasthan, Western Ghat regions of Karnataka and Maharashtra, and Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar of Madhya Pradesh. In Meghalaya, sacred groves are the last refuges for many rare and threatened plants. Stop the video here and study the previous year question, how the questions on the like ex situ conservation, in situ conservations, and the methods and the wildlife sanctuaries and seed banks and match the following has been asked in the previous years, and that's how you study the NEET examination. Now comes the why should we conserve biodiversity. First of all, the reason mainly is many. One, we have to understand that narrowly utilitarian value. It means direct economic benefits like food, firewood, fiber, construction materials, industrial products like tannins, lubricants, dyes, resins, and perfumes. Now, another also important factor when it comes to utilities is medicinal importance. 25% of the drug sold worldwide are plant derived. More than 25,000 plant species contribute to traditional medicines. Also called as bioprospecting. It means it is nothing but at a molecular level and genetic and species diversity for economically valuable products. So we are going to do that in bioprospecting. Now comes the broadly utilitarian. It means broadly. Broadly, obviously, it is ecosystem services. That is, Amazon rainforest produces approximately 20% of the atmospheric oxygen through photosynthesis. So, oxygen production. Pollination services like without pollination, bees, bumblebees, bats, and birds, plants cannot produce fruits and seeds effectively, and that's how that is going to cause the population and living biomass also. Other aesthetic values like forest landscapes, spring flowers, bird songs, and natural beauty. These benefits cannot be assigned a realistic economic value. Another is ethical value. Every species has intrinsic value, valuable even if it has no direct economic use. Every organism has a right to exist. Humans have a moral responsibility to protect the biodiversity. Our responsibility is preserve biodiversity for future generations, protect biological heritage, and maintain the ecological balance. So, Earth, present generation, what we are going to do is going to affect the future generation. Now, NCERT examples here are bioprospect. It means search for economically useful biological resources. That economical use may be from at a molecular level, genetic, or species level also. Stop the video here and study all the points. Direct important questions can come here because this slide is about the application part of the biodiversity. Let's see what do you mean by ex situ conservation. Ex means obviously outside, any off-site. Threatened animals and plants are taken out of their natural habitat and placed in special settings where they can be protected and given a special care. That is called as ex situ conservation. Zoological parks, botanical gardens, cryopreservation, that is gamete banks, in vitro fertilizations, and micropropagation. These are the examples, and seed banks are examples of ex situ conservation. Stop the video, study the images first, then the point, and almost all the questions from this topic can be answered easily. And also, don't forget to compare it with the previous year questions I have given on the side. Now, international efforts. What is the international people or international community is doing in order to protect these biodiversity? Okay, Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD), the Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro. It happened in 1992. The Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992 called upon all nations to take appropriate measures for conservation of biodiversity and sustainable utilization of its benefits. So the question will be what was their main intention, the objective. There are two. One is conservation of biodiversity and two is sustainable utilization of its benefits. So the Earth Summit happened in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. Second was World Summit on Sustainable Development. It was Earth Summit, first one, 1992, Rio de Janeiro was Earth Summit, and then in 2002 in South Africa in Johannesburg, it was World Summit on Sustainable Development. What were they? What was their motto? At the World Summit on Sustainable Development held in Johannesburg, South Africa in 2002, 190 countries pledged to achieve by 2010 a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss at global, regional, and local levels. So, significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss, that was the main intention in the World Summit of 2002. Indian Biodiversity Act. The Biodiversity Act was passed by the Parliament in 2002 and received the President's assent on 5th February 2003. GEAC, Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. GEAC is an Indian government body that makes deciding decisions regarding validity of genetically modified research, safety of introducing the GM organisms for public services, also appears in the biotechnology chapter. Stop the video here and study the previous year questions. These are some of the corner concepts which we usually miss, but they are very important. Okay, like for example, vulnerable concepts, and what do you mean by what is the shatush wool and red panda, IUCN. All these topics are coming on a regular basis. So stop the video, study all these 15 corner concepts, but questions are being frequently asked, and also see the quick memory recap. That memory recap is going to help you in the examination. You have to observe the image and study so that whatever you study you will not forget. These are the predicted questions in the future NEET. So assertion, reason, match the following statement based. All the questions here are present. Stop the video, write these questions on a paper and study multiple times, so that apart from like studying the notes and watching the video and integrating with previous year questions, I am giving you predicted questions for the future NEET, and hopefully many of these questions, maybe the format will be changed, but these questions could come. These are the formulas. These all formulas we have already studied, but this is a quick recap of all the formulas. This is a recap or revision of terms actually. Okay, important terms so that you should not get confused. Stop the video and you go on studying on your own. Memory tricks and mnemonics. I have given some of the memory tricks in order to remember, because many of the questions are memory based and some have some linkage, some have some codings. So these memories will help you in order to not to forget. Again, key figures to memorize, like number wise. Okay, like how many species are present and hotspots in India and ocean NPP in billion tons. All these numerical questions, like number based, fact based, memory based questions can also come, and that is why I have put all the numbers or figures to memorize at one place. In the same way, examination traps and how to avoid them. This is very, very, very important. Okay, stop the video and study all the traps. I have given like trap 1, trap 2, how do you confuse and what do you mean by, and how the examiner is going to change the word. All I have given here. So you should remember these examiner traps are very important. PYQ pattern analysis. So I have also analyzed the previous year questions and I have given here this pie chart that will tell you what could be the weightage from which chapter. Okay. And last but not the least, obviously, predicted questions for future NEET examination. Stop the video, study these all the questions and watch this video in 2x speed 3 to 4 times. This video is all you need for your NEET examination. If you study and watch this video thoroughly, you will not need any other resource for your examination, and you can answer all the questions. All the very best. Stay tuned to Dr. Luqman's Medicon Academy. Subscribe and share this channel to your friends. Our next video will be also very helpful, so stay tuned.